Hi everyone, we're here at Fieldwood Heath Golf Club today to meet our long-standing partner Toro. It's 25 years of CMAE this year and Toro have been with us since day one. And I'm here to meet Andy Brown to talk about the partnership today and the future as we go into this 25th anniversary year. So let's go and see what he's got to say. So Andy, welcome, and 25 years of CMAE this year and 25 years of partnering with Toro, which has been fantastic. And just want to start off by understanding from Toro's point of view the importance of partnerships generally, but the partnership certainly over the last 25 years with CMAE.
Well, thanks, Craig. Yes, our partnership with CMAE now is coming into its 25th year, which is amazing. And it, I suppose in a way, it's testament to the relationship that we've built both with yourselves over all that time, but equally the relationship we had to start with the CMAA, which was obviously we'd had in America prior to the formation of the CMAE. And they came to us and said, look, we've got a lot of European members that would like to have a European chapter of their own, and tailor the education and everything around what's required in Europe. And would you be interested in supporting them as they got started? And we were very enthusiastic about it because we'd already had a very strong relationship with the CMAA, and we recognised the importance of the general manager in everything that we do. So we were delighted to be given that opportunity, and it's gone from strength to strength over the 25 years.
Brilliant, and we've spoken about how the role of the general manager has developed. Certainly, in the last 25 years, if not in the last 10 years or 15 years. But do you see how? Or we've spoken previously about the general manager having to have an understanding of a lot of different things within the club, but the importance now of general managers having an understanding of irrigation, having an understanding of the machinery and the services that you guys provide.
Undoubtedly, and I think that is at the crux of why we feel this relationship is so important and why it's been so successful both for us and hopefully for your members. That the role of the general manager no doubt has changed over this 25 years. When I first joined Toro, which is now 27 years ago, most of our discussions were quite rightly with the greenkeeper, whether it be the head greenkeeper, the course manager, whatever the terminology, but they had the experience, they had the knowledge, and they generally told the club what they needed. I think what has changed over the next 25 years, and you can put a point at any time within that 25 years to where that happened, because at different clubs it happened at different times. But the decision making was moving away from just the request and the sort of the requirement, if you like, from coming from the course manager. And the decision making was moving into the committees, into the clubhouse, and particularly where those clubs were more commercially minded, because obviously investing in whether it be a new irrigation system or a fleet of equipment, which probably was getting replaced every 5, 7, 8 years, something like that. These are very big investments, and once you've built the golf course, you've built the clubhouse, and everything is functioning, it's the biggest expense that you have that is recurring on equipment basis. Irrigation, obviously not the same. It's a 20, 25 year life cycle. And so, but if you suddenly have to make that decision around investing in a new irrigation system, the costs are substantial. And so the decisions have to be made at a club management level with the input of the expertise of the course manager. So the general manager has to understand what are the nuances of those decisions. And the role of the general manager has become so vital in bringing together all the expertise, whether it be obviously from the technical point of view, what's the right technology, what is required for the golf course, but equally from a financial point of view, and all the other aspects of running a club. So, for us, it's really important that we are close to the general manager. We can have those conversations and help them understand what type of questions they should be asking, or even what they should be thinking in terms of strategy and what are their options. And we feel that through our partnership with CMAE, we get the opportunity to do that in a non-commercial environment. Often it's an education environment. It's not we're not presenting in a sales environment. We're very much sort of talking and providing information that is hopefully valuable and relevant, They can ask questions. We can give them some ideas about and examples of peers of theirs who have done things in a particular way. And again, that's the strength of CMAE. You've got an incredible network of members globally, not just in any one particular country, which allows the members to find out how other courses have and clubs have approached the same problem.
And you mentioned two things there: the education and technology. And I suppose, you know, in your sphere at Toro, that technology is consistently evolving and changing and improving. And through the education and through the partnership, you can instill that information and share that information with our members. And I know that you guys regularly attend events, whether it's expos, whether it's conferences, whether it's MDPs, and I know you presented on MDP Golf in St Andrews. And I know that this year you've spoken about technology and how it's rapidly advancing now, and some of the opportunities and you've got, and some of the new innovation that Toro are introducing this year is going to be vital for the managers to understand that and get to know what that's all about for them.
Undoubtedly, and in fact, you know, I probably have said this every year for the last 10 years that we're just about to excuse me, enter the most significant change in terms of technology in course management. But I think this year I can actually say with certainty that we're here, because a lot of that technology has been developed over a range of time. And in fact, when I first joined Toro back in 99, 2000, I saw my first electric greens mower. I saw my first hydrogen fuel cell greens mower. We were investing in developing robotics. You know, so all of that was happening 25 plus years ago. But finally, we're at the point now where that technology is both practical, it does what we want it to do, but equally at a price that is now manageable for clubs. So we are literally at that point, similarly to when we first started in golf back in the early 1920s, where we were part of the transition from a horse-drawn gang mower on a fairway to a mechanized mower. You know, we're at that same moment where we're moving from horsepower to combustion engine back in the 20s.
Sure.
We're now at that transition from combustion into electric and potentially hydrogen. So it's absolutely an exciting time. So anybody coming into the industry now is having to consider those technologies and are they right for a club? You know, we've obviously got a lot of clubs making that transition. They've made it the early adopters. And others that are taking their time, or just because of the buying cycle, they're not quite ready for that to make that investment. But the point is they've got options now.
You talk about the buying cycle. Are you seeing more and more clubs now having that 5-year plan, that 10-year plan, and trying to stick to that, so that these big, capex projects like irrigation systems, like you mentioned earlier, or new machinery, is something that they're embracing now and seeing that they're going to have to take that on board? There's a lot of challenges out there, environmental challenges, financially sustainable challenges for clubs. Are you seeing that clubs are starting to plan a lot more now and stick to that plan?
Yes, and I think a lot of the reason for that is down to the likes of CMAE. You know, you have, through your education program, provided a structure and if you like, giving them a thought process to base a lot of their strategic decisions around. And I think that's one of the great reasons why CMAE has been as successful as it has and is continuing to grow. You know, the structured education program that you provide, and with our input in the certain areas, can help to sort of give real world examples. I think that is very beneficial for your members. The investments are significant, as I've mentioned. You know, the cost of equipment now has gone up significantly since when I first started, and equally post-COVID. You know, the costs of production, the cost of raw materials, etc., has pushed everything up significantly. And so when a club has to make those decisions, they've got to think very seriously about where are they putting their money and how are they investing it. So a well-structured 5-year plan makes a lot of sense for most clubs. We've still got some that like to buy piecemeal pieces of equipment and they'll pay with cash and they want to just have and own a piece of equipment. And that's fair enough if that's still how their club wishes to operate. But more and more clubs now are approaching it from a far more business structured perspective. And they're looking for not just an investment, but a return on that investment, whether it's a return in monetary terms or whether it's a return in quality terms, which of course is what they're wishing to provide their members, and of course maintaining membership levels, etc., is where their revenue comes from. So our job is to help them understand what their options are and how the different technologies can benefit them. I mean, I think probably the easiest example, the two good examples right now, one is around water and one is around moving to electric and robotics. Those are the three big topics in course maintenance right now. Water is the biggest issue that golf has to manage. Its availability, its application, its cost. We will have water restrictions increasingly imposed on golf across all society. If climate change continues to deliver hotter, longer periods of drought in the summer months. And so how you use that water is really important, where you're getting it from, but how you're applying it and making sure you're not wasting it, that's really important.
Do you feel that, we're here in gorgeous, the sun's shining in Oxfordshire in the UK today, but do you feel regionally, if you look at Europe and the CMAE's broader church, do you see regional nuances, regional differences in terms of challenges, in terms of what managers are having to deal with?
No, undoubtedly. And again, water is a huge issue, because if you go further south, obviously you're into the Sun Belt, if you like, and water is a major challenge, from a society perspective. And so golf has to show that it's doing the right thing. Otherwise, it's going to have restrictions placed upon it, which will be restrictive for the business and the game in general. So, in places like Spain and southern France and other areas where water is under a lot of pressure, there aren't golf courses using water from the main supply. It's usually treated sewage effluent, it's from resorts, etc. We're getting the increased use of desalinated water in certain parts of the Middle East as well. And these new technologies are helping to support the use of water in golf. But there's absolutely no doubt that the rest of society looks at golf and says, well, do you have a valid reason for using that resource? So it's up to us as a company that's developing technology for our customers to help them manage that, is to help them understand where we can do that and where they can make some serious savings. I mean, again, go back 25 years, both in terms of education and technology, far more water was being used on golf courses than is being used today. Better education and better technology, we're looking at significant 50% less water used on golf courses than was being used 20 years ago. And that's because we can do it better and we know how to do it and we know why we should do it.
And it's quite interesting, I think, because there's an education piece to be done, not only obviously with general managers and people that work within the industry, but like you just touched on, really, it's people outside of the industry as well, the perception of golf, that it uses a lot of water, and they might see that it's a boiling hot day and we haven't had rain for weeks and there's sprinklers firing off on a golf course, and someone drives past and thinks, well, how come they can use that and I can't use my hose pipe at home, kind of thing. And it's that perception.
No, definitely. And so golf doesn't have a great track record of telling its stories very well to outside of golf. We do tend to talk to ourselves and preach to the converted. And so it's really important that we get those messages out. So, there are some great organizations, and I know you for instance do a lot of work with GEO, just as we do, Golf Environment Organization, and it's through the support of organizations like that, they have the ability to talk on our behalf outside of golf in a credible way. It's easy for us to say it, but in fact it has far more meaning if an organization who have credibility like GEO are saying it on our behalf. And in fact, when that happens, a lot of the outside agencies look at golf and say, wow, actually you're leading the way, both in terms of knowledge, education and technology and application. And in fact, it actually gives us a very good point at which we can say, look at what we're doing and see how you can do it too, across all other sports, but equally landscapes and then obviously domestically as well.
So as someone that's worked in the industry for 27 years at Toro, I think you said, do you see a collaboration piece within the industry as well, that the more collaboration that can happen between ourselves and you and GEO and other stakeholders within the industry?
Absolutely.
That's help drive
we must have a united voice. And with that, to get that, we need to have forums in which we can be talking about these issues together and then come up with a sensible statement, if you like, and strategy for the game at large. And that's happening more today than ever before, which is really good.
It is.
And as I say, we are now entering a really exciting decade. And assuming obviously the world throws curveballs as is all the time, but the game itself is in a very strong position. And I think the levels of education and the people in the industry, there's some really good quality people in the industry who have the game at heart, take the game to heart, and they want it to be successful. And it has to be successful from a business perspective just as much as from a game perspective.
Sure. And talking of collaboration, our conference, our European conference in October, great news is that Toro have agreed to be a headline sponsor of it as well, which is really exciting for us. And I think in our 25th year together as two organisations, I think that's a really fitting way to celebrate that. You looking forward to conference, the collaboration? What are the key things that you look for when you go to these type of events? I know you attend a lot of BTMEs and European conferences and others all over the world. What does Toro look to do at these events, and you personally as well?
Well, I've been very lucky in my role. I've been able to attend a lot of different events across the industry, different strands of it, whether it be club management, greenkeeping, obviously, PGA pros and the like. And so for me, it's given me a very broad overview of what's going on in the industry, and that's helpful for Toro because everybody is a customer in one form or another. And so we need to understand what the challenges are for those particular customer groups and also where there's some synergy. And so by attending and listening to the members talk about the challenges that they've got, we can start to plan how we would help them and therefore, how we would in the end benefit ourselves. And so attending conferences has always been an important thing to do. For us, particularly working with you, again, it gives us an opportunity to network with your members. And there's nothing better than spending time face to face, like I said before, in a non-commercial environment. So we're not there to talk about sales necessarily. What we're talking about is an opportunity to exchange ideas and exchange that conversation. So, the event coming up in St Andrews, it's a big event for yourselves, great opportunity to celebrate with your members and to celebrate the success of CMAE and to sort of launch the next 25 years. Yeah. And we will enjoy being a part of that. We take the long view when it comes to relationships and also the industry. We've been doing this well over 100 years now. We started in 1914 and our first golf product was just after the First World War. So we've been doing this a long time. Our intention is to keep doing it. And the best way to do that is to stay really engaged with the market and with our customers and our partners. And St Andrews for you with the sponsorship that we're taking with you this year will be a fantastic opportunity to do that.
St Andrews, the home of golf. I know Toro have got great links to St Andrews and the Links Trust and the work that you do up there. And I think the conference could be an opportunity for you to share that with the group that are going to be there. But what are the links and what work are you doing with the Links
Well,
Trust?
again, you're absolutely right. And when I joined Toro at the end of 99 into 2000, we were just developing our relationship with the Links Trust. So I've been involved and helped to manage that relationship for the next 26 years. So it's very much become a second home for me. And I probably should have moved up there actually, to be honest, but I didn't. But it's an amazing place and they're an amazing organization and they've developed incredibly over this 25 years as well. And we celebrated our 25th anniversary with them last year. Our relationship is built on multiple layers of relationship from our CEO and the CEO of the Links Trust and the board, all the way down to every engineer and technician that gets involved at the grassroots level. And it's been very meaningful and strong for us. And it's a global relationship. St Andrews, as you say, the home of golf, it resonates with every golfer anywhere in the world. So the ability to bring customers to St Andrews to see what we're doing with them. Our first irrigation product went in there in 1964, I think. Wow. And we've had equipment there equally for, over 30 years. So it's a very tight relationship. We take a lot of new technology there. So, they're just doing a complete new upgrade of the old course irrigation system right now. So that should be completed by the time the conference comes along. So there'll be an opportunity to understand for your members how that was done and also, what technologies they've employed. We've put robotic products in there for the first time, both on their driving range, and there'll be some that they'll trial out on the golf course as well. And of course, they were one of the first to invest and engage in the whole move to electric products. And that's been a huge success for them. You know, when the 150th Open was held there just 5 years ago, they used for the very first time ride-on XXX fully electric greens mowers to maintain the greens in preparation for the tournament. Never been done before, always had been done with hand mowers. But because of the quality of the machine and also how quiet they are, they felt that this was the right time to make that move. And it saved them, you know, normally it would take, I think I'm right, I remember, 24 man hours to prepare the greens. Because with pedestrian mowers, they reduced that down to 8 by using the XXXs, with no drop in quality, and in fact, possibly even a step up in quality. And so the benefits were from a management point of view as much as from any other aspect. So St Andrews has been a really, the Links Trust have been a great partner as well. It's very appropriate that you're hosting your 25th celebrations there as well. And it's a big driver for us to be there in strength and to help celebrate, you know, all of those relationships.
Well, we're really looking forward to being there with you. Thank you and Toro and the whole team at Toro for your continued support of CMAE. It's a relationship that all the team at CMAE and the board really value. And we look forward to welcoming you and others to St Andrews in October. And thanks for your time today.
It's a pleasure, Craig, and we absolutely are looking forward to our time up at St Andrews with you.